Hi, and welcome to another episode of Pet Pals. I'm Bethany Davidson, the Humane Educator at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. Animal wrangling for us is our volunteer coordinator, Sean Snyder. And again, we have a dog-filled show for you today. Our dog population is exceptionally large for this time of year. Normally it's quiet this time of year. We have, a few dogs, a few cats, and now we have basically no cats and tons of dogs. So it's a great time to come and check us out. If you're looking to adopt and add a dog to your family. The first dog that we have for you today is probably the dog that's going to do best in any household of the dogs on the adoption floor right now. This is Joni, and she is a 3 to 4 year old terrier mix. She's got a great red, brindle, and white color, and she's recommended for children of any age, and she's also a really great size. As an established adult dog, she's only about 45 pounds, which means she might put on a few pounds, but she's not going to get any bigger. So she's a really great size, big enough that you can take her on hiking and doing all those fun things and not have to worry about carrying her in your backpacker like you would like with a small dog like maybe Goliath, who was on our last episode, but not so big and strong and heavy that she's going to pull you all over the place like maybe Miles, another dog who's going to be on the show for today. So she has tons of great qualities. No real issues in her behavior assessment. Like most terrier mixes, she can pull a little bit on her leash, but she's very friendly. She, play bows and gets excited when she sees other dogs. No issues with food aggression. She wants to sit in your lap. As you can see, she's quite content lounging at Sean's feet there. She loves being petted. She's treat motivated. She just has tons and tons of great qualities if you're looking for an all-around good dog to make part of your family.
So we often talk about dog body language, but cues can vary from individual dog to breed. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so one of the things with Joni that we want to look into, like a lot of people, we talk about piloerection, or like when their hackles stand up, when their fur stands up, and that can be a sign of stress and anxiety and fear and all these other different things, but you have to look at your breeds, and you might say, well, she's a terrier mix, a pit bull mix. Why is that an issue? Well, she's definitely mixed with something else, probably a ridgeback, and you can kind of see faintly she has a little mohawk on her back as she rolls over, and so that's just like, it's like a calic almost. So it's not that her fur is standing up. That's how that always is. So you have to, learn individual things that are specific to your dog, and if you have a dog with more distinct features, like boxers and Dobermans and things like that, they're going to have some different features. But when you're looking at Joni, you can't say, oh, she must be nervous or scared because she's having that fur standing up, because that's part of a certain breed that she's mixed with, and that's just always going to be there. So always knowing your dog, knowing your breed, and figuring out what's the norm for them so that you can read them correctly and have other people interact. We don't want people to avoid, approaching Joni because she's super friendly because they think that she's fearful based on something that's just always there. If you think that Joni is going to be a great addition to your household, then you definitely want to take that first step and book an appointment to visit her. And the only way to do that is by going to visit fcac.as.me. Our next dog is a very handsome dog. He's a great blue fawn color, which we don't see here all the time. This is Miles, and Miles is an energetic dog, would maybe be a bit of an understatement for Miles. Miles is a dog who's very treat motivated. He seems to be very smart, very scent driven. Has a lot of potential, but he needs a lot of exercise, and he needs a lot of training. And when I read through Miles' profile, because he was a dog that was an owner surrender, what always comes to mind is making sure that you're fully prepared for a pet before you get one. People always ask us, about why we have to do applications and why everybody in the household has to visit and everybody should be on board when you're getting a dog. And Miles is the perfect example of that, because what happened was, there was a family and the husband went out and got a dog and brought it home to his pregnant wife and their young child without her knowledge. And then they had some personal issues. They're not together anymore, and now nobody had the time to work with Miles or the energy, and he ended up here looking for a forever home. So when you're thinking about getting a pet, you really want to think about your expectations. Is it something that you're going to have to train? Is it something that you're going to have to work with? Is a cat maybe better suited for your lifestyle than a dog? Do you have the time? Are you committed to it? Is everybody in your household on board? Those are all things that you should be checking off your list before you go ahead and bring a pet home and make that decision to adopt or buy or what have you. In terms of other dogs, Miles did briefly live with another dog, and his reactions to dogs can be hit or miss. So you want to make sure if you do have an existing pet that you are bringing them in to meet Miles, making sure that they're going to get along, and keeping in mind that he has a lot of energy needs. He's not just a walk around the block kind of guy. He's going to be, plenty of time playing fetch in the backyard, long hikes, all of those things, and getting him mentally stimulated. He likes to sniff, so maybe some scent work would be great for him. All of those types of things to make sure that he is going to be tired, because a tired dog is a happy dog.
Yes.
And a well-behaved one, too.
Yes. So you mentioned that he has a lot of potential, needs a little work. So what kind of family do you think would be best suited for him?
So we are looking for families with older children, just because he can be a little bit mouthy, a little bit jumpy, and he's just a large side. He's 70 plus pounds, and you can look at him. He's all muscle. He's very muscular. We want to make sure he's not knocking anybody over or anything like that, but definitely a family that has the time to devote to a dog. If you are like, I got to go to this kid's practice and this kid's game, and we got this and that and the other thing, and you're not going to have time to exercise your dog and train your dog, then Miles probably isn't the right one for you. But if you want to do agility or whatever, and you have the time to really work with him and take him to some training classes, then that's the type of home I think would be best suited for Miles, so that he can be happy and end up in a forever family and not end up back in a shelter facility like this one. If you think that Miles is the perfect project dog for you, the way to kind of figure out if you're all going to get along is to stop by and visit. And you can do that by going to visit fcac.as.me to book your appointment. So our next dog for you today is another brindle mix. She is blue brindle, however, instead. A little bit of a different color. Still has all of that striping. And her name is Rose, and she is a 2-year-old terrier mix. Unlike Joni, who we saw earlier, about the same size, Joni was a super confident dog. And Rose is a little bit shyer, a little bit more fearful, so she's going to need a different type of family. We're looking for a family with teenagers or older to understand that she does startle easily, and she doesn't like fast movements and things like that. She just needs to take time to get to know some new people. Are you choking yourself? She's pulling on her leash, and she's giving herself a bit of a cough there. So Rose is very sweet and has a lot of potential, but she just needs like a calmer, more relaxed household. If there's a ton of activity, a ton of other animals, stuff in your house, that's going to be a little bit more upsetting for Rose. So just like calm, quiet, relaxed is really what she's looking for. And just teaching her that the world is not scary. So, introducing her to things and providing her with lots of yummy treats so that she knows, say, video cameras are actually a great thing because they make treats happen and things like that. And that could be with noises or anything along those lines. She has been cautious when she's outside. The other dogs seem to freak her out a little bit. She cowers when they're barking at her and things like that. So if you do have existing pets in the household, that meeting is going to be very, very important for Rose.
So Rose's profile with some other dogs talk about muzzling. In what ways and why are we using muzzling?
So a lot of people have a negative association with muzzles, and muzzles are actually a really great tool. In the context of a lot of our dogs, we use them when we're vetting the animals. Because Rose was very, very shy and very nervous, and quick movements and things were making her uncomfortable, especially with new people, and handling that involves more pressure and things like that. They went ahead and put on a muzzle for her so that if she did get freaked out, she wouldn't nip in fear or as a reaction. And she did fine with that muzzling. It wasn't an issue. Miles, who was on the show, was also muzzled as a preventative because he's a big guy. He can be a little bit mouthy. For veterinary care, it was just a precaution. And then we have Julie, who's our longtime resident, who's been on the show before. She hates getting her ears cleaned because it's been painful with all of the ear infections that she came in with. So she's muzzled as well so that she doesn't, have those types of reactions. So they can be great as a precaution to prevent any type of, stress or fear biting in a vet situation. But they're also a great tool to use out and about. Say you're taking your dog on a walk and your dog doesn't like other dogs or strangers or anything like that. They're a great tool to help, make sure everybody's staying safe. So you don't want to necessarily prejudge any dogs that are in a muzzle because there's a great reason for that. And they are a tool. They're not meant to be a bad thing. And the more people are open to them using them, the safer everybody is going to be. So that is something that we would go over in an adoption interview, how to put a muzzle on, get the dog familiar with it if you think your dog is going to need them regularly for vet care or otherwise. If you have the quiet, calm, relaxed home that you think is going to be a great place to teach Rose here that the world is a great place and not a scary one, you can do that by meeting her and going to visit fcac.as.me to book that appointment. You can call and get some additional information or review her profile prior to visiting by calling 301-600-1546. So we've introduced you to a lot of terrier mixes, and we've talked about it in the past. They do make up a significant portion of our adoptable dogs, but we do have something a little bit different for you today in Shuna. Shuna is a beagle mix. She's about 5 to 6 years old, and like many of our dogs, she came to us as a stray, so we're still kind of getting to know her, and she's getting to know her new environment. Initially, she was kind of shy, but in the last couple of weeks, she's really warmed up and become quite a social dog. The first time I met her, I went in to take her picture and I read her profile and I was like shy. I was like, really? Because she came right up to me. She sat nicely when I asked her to. She had a smile on her face. And she keeps continuing to do that. But these behavior notes are always helpful because it lets you know, like, she's shy in a new place. So when she goes to our new forever family, she may start exhibiting some of those characteristics that we saw early on here in our facility. But then over the course of weeks and kind of getting comfortable, become kind of more what you're going to see today. In terms of the other dogs, she, like Rose, kind of cowers when she walks by the other dogs. They kind of upset her a little bit. They're loud, they're barking, but for the most part, little to no reaction. So it doesn't mean that she couldn't live in a home with another dog. It just means that our large number of very loud dogs can sometimes be a little upsetting for her, which is another reason those meet and greets are super important. You want to make sure that they're feeling comfortable. Because she can be a little bit nervous, we have recommended her for kids that are a little bit older. And when we say older, we're not meaning like teenagers. If it says teenagers, it'll say teenagers. When we're talking about older kids, we mostly just mean like not toddlers, like 6 and up, 8 and up, 10 and up, depending on the scenario. And all of those things are not hard and fast rules. They're suggestions. So if you have, a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old that is grown up with dogs and can be respectful of a dog's space and not use them as a pillow or climb all over them, then that could be fine. But with a dog that's a little bit shyer, we want to make sure that the kids in the household are understanding and respecting those boundaries.
So Shuna's medical notes point out an injury to her neck. What can owners do to help prevent those types of things?
So our assessment is that the injuries to her neck were probably from some sort of collar issue. And we've seen this before. Oftentimes owners will use choke chains or prong collars even. And while those are training tools, they're not ones that we encourage people to use because they're aversive and they create pain. And they can also create injury, especially when you're not using them properly. They can, cut up the dog's necks, but also just in general, when you're putting your collar on your dog, if you're walking your dog on a collar and a leash, you want to make sure that they're tight enough that they're not going to be able to slip out of it. So you're really looking just to get 2 fingers under there. But if you start your dog out, with 2 fingers and it's, fitting okay, and then your dog starts to grow, if it's a puppy, it's growing, or if it's an older dog, putting on some pounds, not getting as much exercise, then you can also get into a situation where the collars now grow into the skin and can cut and create injury. Those things are things that could not only affect their breathing and their trachea and that whole system, but can also lead to infections. So you want to make sure that if you're just talking about your collar, they're fitted appropriately, that they're not too tight, and as the animals are growing and changing, you're adjusting those collars. But if you do choose to go the route, again, we don't advise this, of using prong collars and things along those lines, that you are finding somebody who can teach you how to use them appropriately so that you can use them in a safest manner if you're going to do that anyway. But we would encourage, a positive force-free reinforcement protocol, which we see work here all the time with our dogs. If you love Shuna, the adorable little beagle mix, and you want to make her part of your family, then you want to make an appointment to visit her and fill out those applications. You can do both of those things by going to visit fcac.as.me. Downloadable applications for cats, dogs, and small animals can also be found on that booking site. We had a highly energetic dog on the show a little bit earlier, Miles, and Nino is also a super energetic dog. A little bit smaller in size at about 60 pounds. He is also a little bit younger at a year old. And instead of saying a terrier mix, we actually have this guy down as an American Staffordshire Terrier mix. Because I think that was the information that we were able to gain from a previous owner. Nino obviously loves his toys. He has the standard relaxed frog pose down pat. And he's a great chocolate and white color. He's he's a very handsome dog, and he does have a lot of good qualities. He already knows a couple of things, sit being one of them. He knows down, he knows paw, so he does have some of those training basics, which lets you know, hey, he's trainable, and he's very treat motivated. He's friendly when you approach his kennel. He reacts favorably to other dogs. He can be difficult to walk, which I think some of the kennel techs were working with him on. No issues with food aggression. He enjoys being petted, but he can sometimes get playfully aroused with petting, sometimes get overstimulated when he's out running around in the play yard. So those are things to consider, when you're thinking about, is he going to be a good fit for your family? Helping him to learn some impulse control. We always encourage the say please protocol, which can help with that. So it's just teaching all the dogs that, with our kids, we usually say you have to say please. But with the dogs, their version of that is they have to sit quietly and politely on the floor. They have to, learn that they need to calm themselves down before they can get things. So it really helps with some of those things that he specifically needs to work on. But otherwise, he has much like many of our dogs, all of them really, he has great potential in the right household, but his energy level doesn't necessarily make him suitable for every family, every household, every lifestyle. So making sure that, the dogs that you're thinking about adding to your family are the dogs that are actually going to be a good fit long-term for what you're looking to do with your life.
So originally he came in as a stray, but if you look at his profile, it says he's owned. How did that go about changing?
So sometimes that happens, and Nino's story is actually kind of quite sad. An officer, one of our ACOs, brought him in. There was a report of a dog tied to a tree, and that was Nino. So there's a lot of things that we want to talk about on that front. But because when he came in, he was microchipped, we were then able to call that person who said, well, I gave the dog to someone else, and then kind of track down through that list thanks to a microchip who owned him and actually get surrender papers and get some information. But that leads us to a couple things. The importance of microchipping, because that can get your dog back home to you. So all of the animals that leave our facility are microchipped, and we also offer that as a clinic on Wednesdays without an appointment during our open hours to get that done for you guys. But it's also, we want to talk about what to do when you can't keep your dog. We are here as a county facility. If you are a county resident or have adopted an animal from us, it's really unsafe to just leave your dog somewhere. There's so many potential factors. Someone else who could take it, who shouldn't have a dog, and do, inappropriate or, awful things with them. And other animals could attack the dog. There could be issues with, trafficking, getting hit by cars. There could be issues with, heat stroke and dehydration and all of these types of things. And there are ordinances against that. So if you're struggling with, the inability to keep your animal, yes, we have managed intakes. Call and make those appointments. If it's a serious situation, talk about it. We can make those arrangements because you can be fined if you find that you've abandoned your dog because you've tied it somewhere, and those types of things can escalate. So we're willing to work with you to make sure that the animals are safe. But Nino is now here in a safe situation looking for a loving home. His story is sad, and we want to make sure that other dogs aren't out there suffering that same fate, being abandoned, tied to trees and things like that. So call us for more information if you have issues like that. You can always call the main office at 301-600-1546. And if you want to be the happy ending to Nino's somewhat sad starting story, first chapter, then you can visit him by going to visitfcac.as.me. Our last guest is something a little different for you guys today. We have a rabbit. We have quite a few rabbits and quite a few guinea pigs left in our small animal room. And Parks is actually one of our more recent rabbit additions, but he is a little bit younger, between 3 to 6 months old, and he's a little bit more confident, a little bit easier to handle than some of our long timers. So it was a great opportunity to, because of his easygoing, more handleable nature, present a rabbit for you guys. He is a Dutch mix, and just like there's tons of different types of dogs, there are tons of different types of rabbits, and he has a coloring that's often considered a cat color, tortoiseshell, but there are different versions of that in the rabbit world as well. And he's just a super cute, tiny little bunny. He's very friendly, he's very confident. It was fun to take his pictures because he was running around and playing. Sometimes our bunnies are just a little bit more weary of people, but that doesn't seem to be an issue for Parks. And bunnies are a lot of work. A lot of people think that it's going to be a great pet for their kids, especially in the spring with Easter holidays and stuff like that. Bunnies are a lot of work. They have to have handling. They have to be handled properly. They need hay and pellets and veggies and things to chew on and things to play with. So we want to make sure that everybody who's interested in taking home the super cute, very playful bunny really understands what they're getting into, so that he doesn't end up back here like so many of the bunnies. Sometimes we even adopt bunnies out, and then they're like, this is a lot of work, and then they come back. So you want to always make sure that you're prepared for the type of pet that you're getting. And our rabbits are spayed and neutered before they leave, depending on their gender. And so you get a lot for the $50 adoption fee when you're getting a rabbit from Frederick County Animal Control.
So like a lot of rabbits that arrive at the shelter, Parks was found as a stray. Some people might think that it's all right to just turn their domestic rabbit out because they see wild rabbits. That's incorrect, correct?
Yes, and we have a post specifically on our Facebook page about Parks and that issue. Parks was actually found in a local county park with another rabbit named Rex. So because the Park Service called us out to kind of find these guys and get them out of a drain pipe, we honored them by naming them Parks and Rec after the show and the organization. Yeah, we see it all the time. People assume, hey, bunnies are outside. These bunnies are completely different. They have different colors, so they're not going to be camouflaged. They're prey animals. They don't have anything to protect themselves. Especially like Wintersweet, our bright white rabbit. She's not going to be very safe outside against predators. These guys are also domestic house rabbits, so they have no training in being able to find food and things like that. So they're really unsafe outside. We take in anything that's domestic. So if you're unable to keep your rabbit, much like the dogs and things like that, call and make an appointment to do those owner surrenders, because we will take them in, care for them, and find them new homes. But it is not safe to just put them out. We see it with guinea pigs too, who are even smaller and less able to fend for themselves. And speaking of rabbits and things like that, it's also a good time to remind everyone that when you see baby bunnies, baby squirrels, baby birds outside, they are okay. They're wildlife. They know how to take care of themselves. Their parents are often somewhere nearby going to come back for them. You want to make sure that you're leaving all of those animals alone when you see them this spring season. You don't need to contact us. They're good to go. They're going to be able to take care of themselves. The best thing that you can do for all of those animals is leave them where you found them. But if you don't want to leave Parks here where you found him and you want to make him part of your family, the only way you're going to be able to do that is by booking an appointment, filling out those applications, and getting that process started. So you want to go to visitfcac.as.me. We do have appointments available Monday through Saturday and evenings on Wednesdays. We hope that you enjoyed meeting all of these adoptable animals. We have many more to choose from, so always feel free to make those appointments, stop by, and see what else we have available to make part of your family.